Welcome to the Local
724 podcast.
in 3, 2, 1.
All right, today we got Shaun Blackham in the house, comedian. How are you?
Doing well yourself?
I'm doing all right.
Good.
Glad to see that you're making it through COVID.
Oh yeah, I mean, just we were saying earlier, it's just the most unfathomable thing. I couldn't even imagine, like you see those things on Facebook and whatnot to say, hey, where do you expect to be in 5 years?
Right. Yeah.
You know, like no, not sitting in my house doing nothing, staring at a wall. Yeah, it's. I mean, honestly, I've been out every day in this in some aspect, but honestly, as a comedian, it's killed my business because of those shows. But as a comedian, I'm always 10, 15 feet away from everybody all the time. I'm always up front. So it's really that aspect of it is kind of a bummer. You know what I mean? Because usually when you're going through this kind of stuff and these kind of situations is when you want to go and have comic relief. And because I remember doing a show.
Absolutely, yeah.
We were doing a show like not even a week or so after 9/11, and how weird it was to actually get up in front of a crowd because you didn't know what you were going to say, how you're going to be perceived.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, okay, and you start thinking of a joke and like your mental Rolodex going, maybe I shouldn't do that joke. And yet there's other comics that went right up and just went boom, right into the, this kind of that kind of stuff and blowing this up and blowing up. And I think people just wanted it. So right now it's weird because I think that with everything going on, and you probably see this with the media and the television and the dividing of the country, I think everybody's just afraid to even have a conversation.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's tough. I mean, like you can see just the divide on Facebook. You look at, you've got like all your people out there that, you've respected for a long time and all of that. And then they start saying some fucked up shit and you're like, oh man, okay, well, maybe I'll just kind of like step back from this, and, I'm guilty of it. It's like if I have friends on there that are saying shit that I don't agree with, I'm just like, oh God. And I, skip past their posts and stuff like that. But it is what it is.
I do that. I tell you about it. I quit watching the news in February, and I'll probably never watch the news again. The only reason I would watch the news is for the weather, because I'm an outdoor kind of guy. Yeah. So I get the weather on my phone, but I just seeing everything and going, it's just crazy what they're like impounding into people's heads. And I said to a guy today, actually, I said, if you ever followed the news before any of this happened, do you ever notice they always put the feel-good story at the very end? That's right. It's always the water skiing squirrel, you know what I mean? Or the monkey that's, driving a car. And because they want you to sit through, like, the murders, your favorite sports team losing, the crappy weather, so you're not going to have your picnic this weekend. Right, yeah. And then all of a sudden they say at the end, like, hey, how about put that in the middle? Put one of those in, like, put something in it, a little comic relief, and make it so it's not so bad. And what is it? You keep people there, and then they hang on to watch that little snippet of that squirrel, and they go, okay, I feel okay about myself. Yeah.
Life's not that bad.
No, but I'm surviving through it. I mean, I'm a single guy, so I just... I do a lot of my individual stuff. I mean, it hasn't bothered me to that aspect of it, but the shows, a lot of my friends in the business, I mean, they're just literally, they're struggling. Yeah, they're struggling. Yeah, and the reason why they're struggling is because of you're your own business. Yeah. So if you're your own business, it's hard to get unemployment. Like if you're just if you're just like if you're like a Drew Carey or Kathy Madigan or, all these big comedians, if that's who you are and you're the business, you can't really some people can't get things unless you're an incorporated business and the way you're structured. So a lot of my friends in the business are just literally just sitting there going, what next? Right, yeah. I mean, the agency I booked through, they're not even thinking into next year because they don't even know what's going to happen. You know what I mean? Yeah. But crazy times, so. It really is. And it's tough because I've actually come up with some, comic material about, the situation.
Right, yeah.
But
when the hell are you going to deliver?
Yeah, when are you going to deliver? It's like, hey, I got a great cake here, but it's going to be moldy by the time I give it to you.
Absolutely.
Right, yeah. So, but.
How'd you get into comedy? How did you start? Was there like a specific thing in school when you were younger or?
No, I could honestly say, well, growing up, I always liked like Buddy Hackett, know, and, I always remember just being late enough to stay up to watch Johnny Carson.
Nice.
and seeing some of the comedians come out, and, see like Rodney Dangerfield come out, and I used to just was amazed when Don Rickles would come out. And you think about Don Rickles then to now, they would probably just put him on the first spaceship and send him to the moon because.
Right,
But it's crazy because wasn't that a different time? Like he was this guy who basically just pounded every race, generation, everything, and never offended anybody. But I remember watching him and thinking, man, this guy could just say whatever he could say, and it was amazing to me. So I liked that aspect, but I never had aspirations to be a comic. Mm-hmm. And so I was quiet in school. And
really?
It was weird because I remember probably about 15 years ago, I did a local show, and my high school guidance counselor was there. And she came up to me after the show. She's like, I can't believe that was you. She goes, you were one of the most quietest kids that I had in all my career.
Yeah.
I was middle of the road kind of guy. I was a little bit of an athlete. I ran track, was on a fitness team, and I hung out with my friends that smoked pot. You know what I mean? And I was I was like Switzerland. I just went right down the middle. But and then just started in life, didn't go to college, just started working. And then I got engaged at, I think around 21, 22. I got engaged to a girl that was like the complete opposite of me. Complete opposite.
Yeah.
I thought that was my rite of passage. I thought, it's time you get to college, you get a job, you get married. And I met this girl, and like this girl, how I should have known that we weren't compatible was like she wouldn't even swear.
Oh boy.
I mean, like, she goes, that girl's such a bitch. I'm like, who? Fuck her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's, and but I so that relationship kind of, it broke up. It wasn't like an angry, horrible thing. It just was like just kind of disbanded. And so I remember running into Jimmy Crenn when he had just started on a DV radio station, and he was doing a remote at, I think it was the Cochrane Pontiac, which was in right behind where the Chili's is in Monroeville. I don't even know if it's even there, but on the back way, the side way into Monroeville Mall.
To the mall, yeah.
Yeah, TGI Fridays. That's where it was, and he was doing a remote. I was talking to him. Hey, how do you do this? What goes on? He said, hey, here's a phone number. Call the Funny Bone Friday at 3:00. Right at 3:00, dial this number. I remember, I know it off by heart because it was 412-281-3130. That's what you called it. And the first 10 people got on stage for the following Tuesday.
That's awesome.
You had to do, So if you called, we're booked, sorry. And so you had to come up with 3 minutes worth of material. So I remember going home. I didn't say anything to anybody. And I remember going home that Friday, and I started just writing stuff down. Because I'm not a writer. Everything I make up just comes into my head.
Yeah.
It just comes in. I can't sit and write in a library. And so I was just wrote some stuff down, and I started realizing that, and I would just read it in a mirror. Mm-hmm. And I'm realizing, wow, how quickly, and I talk fast, how quickly 3 minutes goes by. Like, you write all these jokes down, and you did all your jokes in like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And going, oh, I'm screwed, man. So I came Tuesday, and it was back in the day when the comedy clubs, that's when it was like booming in this country. Mm-hmm. It was like your headliners came in, you made top dollar, and your feature performers would come in and make $600-700 a week doing like 6 shows.
Yeah.
Like you would normally do like 1 show Wednesday, 1 Thursday, 2 Friday, possibly 3 on Saturday, 1 Sunday. So you might do like 6-7 shows, $100 a pop. They used to fly you into your, put you up in a condo. So I'm thinking this would be great to get into. So in fact, they even had a newspaper. It was called Just for Laughs. Mm-hmm. And it was a newspaper like the city paper. It was just every comedy club in every city. I mean, you go through Pennsylvania, it'd be like, Philadelphia had 5 clubs. Pittsburgh had 4,
Yeah.
So you could go into a city and just go, city to city and do a gig. And so get down there. I was the first person on stage, and I'll never forget. I still have the Just for Laughs paper at home. Sitting right in the front row was Mel Blount with his big old cowboy hat, from the Steelers.
Yeah.
Right there. And I was like intimidated. I'm going, oh shit. So I was the first comic up, and you had 3 minutes. You had 3 minutes to do your stuff. And at 2 minutes and 30 seconds up on the balcony was a red light, and it would blink. Just like this, man, you had to wrap it up. If you didn't wrap up in there, they would shut the mic off and the light off, and your set was done. So I did it, and I vaguely remember the response. I got laughs, you know. I mean, I'm sure I was nervous as hell, but I did it. It was fun. It was 1989, and that's when I started, and I've been doing it ever since. You know, just started doing the clubs and just, you know, working your way up. And, you know, I'd drive from here to like Wheeling, West Virginia to MC.
Yeah.
At some shithole theater for $25 a night, you know, drive there and back.
Oh, geez.
You know, yeah. So, and you're sitting there and you're doing a show, and some dude with a third grade education is making out with some girl in the front row, and you're trying to perform. It was a weird becoming. I mean, my first professional show that I did, that I got paid for, was in not St. Clairsville, Ohio. Mingo Junction. Mingo Junction, that whole panhandle of West Virginia, Steubenville, Mingo Junction, that is like, if you see, like, if you want to film a West Virginia movie and trash West Virginia people, that's the little corridor.
That's where you go.
That stupid, because Ohio is like that big, and it was this place, I can't think of the name of it, but it was right next to a steel mill. And it was a Friday night, I was the MC, I was supposed to do 10 minutes, and there was going to be 2 other acts with me. And I didn't know who they were. And I got booked from a guy that had a booking agency out of St. Clairsville, Ohio. And so I'm waiting for showtime, and the other comics aren't there. And the owner came up and said they called they thought it was tomorrow night. So what can you do? I'm like, holy cow, what am I going to do, right? So for literally 40 minutes, I ripped on everybody that came in the door. Also, like Don Rickles coming to my head. People were just coming in and like, you know, hey, show started at 8 o'clock. Can I get you a watch? You know what I mean? I just basically just started just pulling stuff out of nowhere. And I don't even remember my set, but I remember just winging it. And, you know, and that whole fear. And so I got indoctrinated like really quickly, like But so that's how I started. It was just, thought I'll just try something different, man. You know, because I was engaged. I'm like, I'll just try this out and see where it goes. And I'm still doing it to this day. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, yeah.
It's a lot of fun, man. Yeah. I mean, just comedy in any sense of the word is just like, I mean, it's like medicine to people. You really do need it all the time, especially like now. And especially like back, you know, when the 9/11 stuff happened, you know, you watch the news, you're just like indoctrinated with like just watching the news and like everybody's fear all the time. And it's just like, you know, you need that outlet. Yeah. You know, and it doesn't matter what it is. If it's a boring job, you need a different outlet. You do something else. And comedy really is just that for the shittiest pieces of life. I mean,
it's so crazy you said it, because I just was telling a guy today, 2 guys actually, the same story, and I've told this probably over 100 times. A few years back, it was a place outside of Pittsburgh in White Oak. I did a show. It's a couple times I did a show at this place. It was sold out. And bar shows, sometimes they're really cool. You have a little banquet hall. Mm-hmm. You can fit, 150, 200 people in there. They're great because they're up close, you're intimate. And after the show is over, you always had that meet and greet. You know, people go, I want to talk to you. Hey, man, you're funny, blah, blah, blah. And they want to hang out with the entertainers. And so they had a bar adjacent to it right next door, same building. Hey, man, come on, have a beer with me with us. I said, sure, no problem. And they all kind of disbanded, and there was one kid was just kind of hanging back. Mm-hmm. And I could tell instantly he was military because he had squared back shoulders, haircut was short, and just with a very stern face, put his hand out very stiffly, shook my hand and said, thanks, man, for making me laugh. I'm like, well, that's what I'm supposed to do, man. I'm glad you had a good time. He goes, nah, you don't understand, man. I didn't want to come out tonight. He said, I'm a vet. He goes, I got PTSD. Mm-hmm. He goes, I did a tour of Afghanistan, Iraq. He goes, a lot of my friends were killed right in front of me. It's pretty messed up, man. So he goes, I didn't want to come out tonight. My friends talked me into it. And so I have to say, this is the first time I've laughed in 7 years. I started like welling up with like tears. Yeah. And I immediately put my hand out. I shook his hand. I said, no, let me thank you. I said, because what you do just gave me the freedom to do what I just did.
Right, yeah.
I mean, literally, it was like that one. It was unscripted. It was just this dude from the heart saying this to me. And right there, I tell everybody, I go, those are the moments in life in that particular situation that would overrode every shitty show I may have done in my whole career.
Oh, yeah,
you know what I mean?
for
Like,
sure.
just someone just saying that, like, this guy's seen things that I never want to see, never want to experience. And he's coming out and he's thanking me for doing something that I just loving to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, like you said, when you do a show, I don't do it for the money. Like, my agent will tell you when he books me for a gig, he'll say, "Are you available for this date? Can you do this date?"
Mm-hmm.
I never say how much is it, because it's about fun. It's
Yeah.
about having that fun and having that connection. And I learned a lot from it. I mean, I was like this shy guy growing up, and you know, I honestly could say that it wasn't until I started doing comedy was how I really found who I was.
Yeah.
You know, as a person, like, you know, that you could just be who you were. You know, a lot of people don't. A lot of people hide behind that facade of like, oh, I'm this and that. And, you know, there's, okay, I come from a rich family, so I should act rich when I really don't want to be rich. And everybody kind of lives in this shell.
Right.
You know, and I've always been kind of me, you know what I mean? And, you know, and so I went with it and just been having fun and, you know, and I still do. You know, I mean, I do miss not having the shows right now because it's crazy how, you know, how like some people just, their life is crap. They go sit in a bar and just drink it. Mm-hmm. You know, so they're just continually feeding that depression.
Yeah.
Drink.
Been there.
Some of them, yeah. Yeah. Some of my best shows have been when something really bad has happened to me.
Yeah.
And like I've had girls, but distinctly I had this girl that I had a huge crush on. We were dating and it was great. It was fun. It was nice. And the night before she was supposed to come to the show with my family at the Improv, she just flat out just dumped me, just out of nowhere. And I was crushed, man. I'm like, what the heck? You know, so the next day she texts me about, hey, you know, I know my whole family, because their whole family never saw me before. They were going to come see me
Right,
at the club. Should they come or not go? And I was like, I got way too much empathy. And I said, no, tell them to come. Come along. They're on the guest list. Good to go. And she goes, would it bother you if I came? I said, no, it's going to look stupid if they come and you don't come, so just go.
Yeah.
I mean, my heart didn't want her to be there, but I remember leaving all day. I was just completely just out of my mind. Drove down right next to the Improv and the waterfront. Is just on the other side of the bridge is Barnes & Noble. Mm-hmm. I went in and talked to a good friend of mine. She recommended this self-help book, you know, called The Art of the Relationship. And I went in, found the book. I'm sitting in the green room before the show, just started reading the first chapter, going, yeah, well, that's definitely me, you know, and oh, shit, I guess I screwed up there, you know what I mean? I'm reading this whole thing. Mm-hmm. As soon as the music come on, the intro music come on, I got up, walked on stage, and went right into my act. And I took all that pissed off energy, that anger, and I never let her know that I was pissed or I was upset. I put on like an unbelievable show. And in fact, I even threw in a subliminal joke in there that only she would know, you know.
Okay.
And, yeah, so it was almost kind of like an in-your-face going, yeah, well, this is what you're missing out on.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I've been able to do that, and it's weird how you can just transform that, and it's kind of a cool way to deal with that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
You know, so I learned to do it, and it's happened to me on several occasions. I remember doing a show they filmed for Channel 22 years ago. It was the day we buried my grandfather, and you know, they called and said, "Hey, listen, we'd like to have you come on this spot," and that's what I did. You know what I mean? And you know, and I just dedicated that to him. You know, so yeah. But you know, it's one of those deals where, you know, it's just like you go into something not knowing what's in store for you. Mm-hmm. Like that's the thing like comedy is. Like comedy is, I was telling you, it's like a blind date with me and 200 people. Yeah. They don't know me, you know what I mean? And I don't know them. And I got to make them like me, and they got to like, you know, vice versa. So it's kind of it's a powerful feeling in a way, you know.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be a good fit, both sides. It's, you know, I don't know, every show that I've ever gone to has just like kind of started out as, you know, you go to see a headliner and, you know, you run into your MC in your first act and your opening act or whoever. And, you know, a lot of times those are the guys who really shock you the most. Those are the guys that are like, oh, wait a minute, what's this guy's name? Yeah. And that's like, it's one of the greatest things, you know, that's just kind of how that like snowball effect happens. And, you know, I got into comedy thinking of, you know, right after college, I had this like boring ass job, and I was doing making T-shirts, with screen printing T-shirts, and you don't work close to anybody when you're doing that. So you're by yourself, and I listened to Opie and Anthony, and those guys were, competitors of Howard Stern, and they always had guys on, Jim Norton, all kinds of dudes, Louis C.K.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Big dudes in New York. So it was just like I was listening to these guys for years and years and years, and I think I listened to them for like 12 years. And I was just like obsessed. I mean, like I couldn't go into a situation without thinking of like, what would this guy say about this or something. Like it's very fun just to like have that mindset of, not taking everything so absolutely serious all the time.
Oh, yeah.
It's the greatest way to think.
The whole start of my career, I mean, I was working as an engineer for a local company, a display company, and I did my job. I'm fortunate. I've got a lot of talents and things like that. And I remember working there all the time, and people would say to me, like, "You ever serious?" I'm like, "Yeah, when I do my job, I'm serious, but I'm going to have fun doing it."
Yeah.
I mean, it's just that whole, like, there's so many people like this, they're so uptight about things, and you become uptight, then you can't appreciate everything that's going on in front of you.
Right.
You know what I mean? So the best things in my life happen when they were spontaneous. Mm-hmm. And if you look at all these people, these girls are getting married, and the families are helping their daughters get married, and just all this, got to do this, that, everything's going to be perfect, boom, bam, boom. And it's like, all for what? Just for a short period of time. Mm-hmm. The only reason why people are there is for the free booze and the free cookies, and they're out the door. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
They don't care. They don't care. You'll never see them again. You know what I mean? As compared to two people who just go, "Hey, you know what? Why don't you just move your shit in, and we'll just see where this goes." And they're the ones that stick together.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? They're the ones that stick together. They, so, when you overthink stuff too much, it'll kill you.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And I have a tendency sometimes to process things, but
I think everybody does.
Well, they said your mind's automatically geared to go to the negative. Like you automatically go to a negative, and you go to negative thought. And surprisingly, a lot of comedians come from a depressive situation.
Yeah.
Like a lot of, like, you read their stories. I mean, they wanted to, kill themselves. I'm not saying me, but I get seasonal depression, but I know what to do to counteract it.
Yeah.
I just get up and go right into what I want to do. I'll go out and I'll burn off the energy. So other people just basically take that and just don't know how to take it to that next level.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I've learned with the comedy is it's like when you go do a joke, the first words out of your mouth when you go on stage, they got to like you. Mm-hmm. And I learned this early on because one of the comics, I can't remember which one, told me, said that, because what I would do, before I'm going on stage, I would take like a piece of paper and I'd write one word down from everything in a sequence how I want to start. I want to start out with dating, driving, parents, cars, and just write it down there. And I would do that first joke out of my mouth, and if I didn't get laughed, I would freak out in my mind. Then I would jump all the way back down to like my closing joke. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden I'm completely just confused. Yeah. Like, what am I going to do? And then all of a sudden I was all over the place, and my segues were horrible. And then, someone said to me, listen, just, if your audience senses fear, they won't work with you. They'll feel bad for you. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so learning that, I just realized that and it took time to the confidence, I basically would just go in and just get up on stage and just be me. Yeah. Just go right into it. Then it all flowed. It all came about. Mm-hmm. And then what I would learn to do when I go on the road is I would come into some town, say come into Greensburg, and say, hey, what part of town, is area in towns feel like really bad? And they might say like this part's bad, or this bar's bad. And, so I would get on stage and say, man, my career is really kicking off. I'm Saturday night, I'm in Greensburg, performing, for 40 people. But my show goes really well. Next week I'll be doing, such and such bar. Right, or such and such shithole. And then people would just bust out laughing because you instantaneously made it personal to them. And so that going into that, when you get the first words out of your mouth, if you can get them, you get them. Yep. If you don't, you can struggle. You know what I mean? And but that's just something that just takes time. And I've seen some great headliners just do a phenomenal show at 7:00, and there's only 60 people there, and the 9:00 show is sold out. Do the same exact set, and just struggle. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and it would be weird to me because a lot of times they would get angry. You know what I mean? They'd get angry because you're not, you're it's, hey, it's just those people. You know what I mean? Or it's just whatever's going on, The worst shows to do with the 11 o'clock shows.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Can imagine.
Yeah, because they couldn't get into the 7 o'clock show, so they hung around there. We paid for parking, so they go out drinking, and then so we used to call it the WWF crowd because they would come in and just be so rowdy and just drunk but so it's a different experience, man. I mean, it's like I'm glad I got involved with it. I'm glad I did it, and but it comes to a certain point where you got to say, how long am I going to do this for?
Yeah.
You know? Like Steve Martin, he got to that point. Did you ever read his book?
I haven't.
Born
No.
Standing Up. It's a great book. And it's about how he struggled throughout, life at the beginning, and his parents, his mother always wanted to be a Hollywood actress. You know what I mean? She wanted that fame. And I think his dad was dad a salesman? He was a salesman. His dad was really hard on him. And so he just basically just traveled the country and just did these little fairs or like circuses and these artsy little things. He just bounced around, made his way to San Francisco, was just doing the goofy characters that he did, and Wild and Crazy Guy, and a little bit here and there, and then next you know, he just was in San Francisco, and next he's like, hey, sold out tonight, 3,000 people, sold out this many people, and next he's selling out thousands, and a lot of people don't realize this. I don't know if you know this, but before hair bands, he was the first person to sell out arenas.
Oh, wow. Really?
Like before the arenas and selling out arenas, Steve Martin. He was like, next, he's filling rooms.
Wow.
And just filling rooms. And he basically, when he got to that point, he worked so hard to get that point, he just said, I'm done. I did it.
Yeah.
And then he went right into movies.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And right into movies. And and I fortunately got to see him and Martin Short about 3 years ago when they came through town.
Yeah.
It's the most I ever paid for any ticket at any show. It's $198 per person.
Yep.
To go sit there. But you know what? It's worth every penny.
Worth it.
To see him and to see two really comedic icons and to see him in his element, talking about how they met. Yeah, it's good.
Three Amigos was one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah.
One of the greatest movies ever.
That's how he met Martin Short. That's the first time they met.
Really?
That's the first time they met. And I remember he told a story on stage about how they met and something. I think they were playing Scrabble or something like that. They were playing a board game in a trailer. I think it was Scrabble. And something about Martin Short said something about, do you want to bang my wife? You know what I mean? Like just something really off. And they just knew they were going to hit off. And that's that's how they met, was on Three Amigos.
That's hysterical, man.
Yeah.
But them and Chevy Chase, man.
Oh yeah. All those guys.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. But to see that. So it's like, it is weird. And one of the cool things for me also doing the comedy was, I was telling you about watching Carson.
Right.
And, my dad, that was my dad's routine. He'd work, come home to work, go do his thing, do his hobbies in the basement, get a shower, and every, 11 o'clock, he'd come and get a shower. Like 11:20, that's how he'd have his bowl of cereal and watch the opening monologue of Carson.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first started doing comedy, I just started doing it. I was living at home at the time, and I remember my dad telling me one time when I came home, he said, "Oh man, we saw this guy on TV last night." My dad said, "Oh my God, he was so funny." And my dad told me it was some of his material. I go, "That's true. It's Drew Carey.
Mm-hmm.
I've done shows with him." So my dad's like, "Oh, it's so funny." So when I worked with Drew because he was originally from Cleveland, so he was always at the Pittsburgh Funny Bones,
Yeah.
And then they had another comedy club in Beaver Falls called Charlie's Courtside. So there was the Lancaster Comedy Club. So basically affiliated with that group was Pittsburgh, Funny Bone, Monroeville, Funny Bone, place in Beaver Falls, and Lancaster. So you technically could almost work with the same comic for, 3 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I know I did probably opened or featured probably 50, 60 times with Drew. So I was with Funny Bone, Monroeville, and my dad and Mom came, and I remember I introduced my dad to Drew. My dad was just like, it was cool for me to have, someone I knew personally.
Right,
And then the second time was right next door here to you was, I got a call from DeCesar Engler. I don't know how many years ago it was, but for me to open up for Stephen Wright.
Oh, okay.
And if you know Stephen Wright, he's one of the most subliminal comics of all time. I mean, his jokes are the kind of joke, he'll tell a joke here, And most people are getting that joke 5 minutes after he's told that joke.
Right, yeah.
And he's going right into it. And they called and said his opening act was not able to make it. Can you do it? I'm like, sure. So I got that was my mother's favorite comic. So I got my parents' front row seats.
Oh, nice.
And I remember sitting in the green room, and the show was supposed to start at 8 o'clock. And I was told I had to do 12 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Then they were going to do a 20-minute intermission and then bring him up. So I was sitting there just like, oh, my God, I mean, are these people are coming to see him. You know, his style of comedy, is mine going to work? I mean, I was just like, I had no idea. And so it was like 2 minutes to 8. And the girl came in. She said, hey, listen, he was staying at the Four Seasons Sheridan where they had him stay. And he said there was a wreck on 30. So he's going to be a little bit late. So can we wait 15 minutes? So now I can sit there for 15 more minutes and just stew in my own, like, oh, what am I going to do? So they said, you're up. And I got up. And I don't know if you've ever been on a big stage like that, but it's like a black abyss. Mm-hmm. You know there's 1,300 people up there because they were sold out. It's just a black abyss. You can't sing just a big white light. And so when I got on stage, I was on stage 2 minutes, and boom, he was standing right there, right on the stage beside the curtain. So I'm like, holy shit, now he's watching me. You know what I mean?
Great.
Like, so I did the show, and it went off great, and got great applause. And afterwards, people were doing the intermission, giving me, oh, man, great show, funny, blah, blah, blah. And it was so good that after the show was over, he talked about how great set I did, and I actually went 2 weeks later. I did open for him at the Warner Theater in Erie.
Oh, that's awesome! Yeah,
yeah. So it's cool to get invited back by somebody of that caliber.
Of course.
Yeah. So yeah, it was cool. Both my parents got to meet. Like my mom got to meet Stephen Wright personally. And they still do today. If I go, if I know somebody, they'll, so it's fun. But,
that's awesome.
Yeah. So.
That's really cool. I did want to ask you a question about a TV show called I'm Dying Up Here. Mm-hmm. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it, and I heard about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The question I wanted to ask was just kind of like, and since you haven't seen it, you're not going to be able to answer, but
I can answer
it. Just kind of like that whole idea of the comics hanging around the comedy club and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Like, is it, kind of like that? Are they all good buddies? Are they all hanging out together? Is it busting everybody's balls and as fun as everybody says that it is back there? It is.
Well, there's any type you're in, that kind of thing, there's always an egotistical environment around it. So I remember when we would go downtown, we'd all hang out and we'd go to the bars, and there was always the clique of us that there was 4 or 5 of us that we all kind of hit it off. And we kind of had our own little group, like the Rat Pack, in Vegas, right?
Right.
And then there was the other ones that came out who just kind of wanted, wanted to hang out with us, but weren't really, we knew they were there, but we really didn't want them there, kind of thing. Yeah. So we kind of had that kind of going, but then you'd find that when you went someplace, when people recognize you, then one person would get kind of jealous, or one person would try to be funnier than you were at the time. And it's just this constant kind of a little kind of, egotistical battle.
Right. Yeah.
And, but then there's some comics who basically like me. Most people tell you if I go to a show and before a show, I could be sitting outside at the bar having dinner, and I'll go do the show. And afterwards people go, I can't believe that was you. 'Cause I'm pretty quiet. Mm-hmm. And I don't go, and I don't have to be funny 24/7.
Right.
But I can be funny when I'm just being me. But you do hang out as a clique of a group of people. I have friends of mine. A lot of my friends are in LA now, and we always get together. We get together, and sometimes they'll come here, and we'll go on a couple weekend shows together and just talk about the days and have fun. And but it's no one really we used to have nicknames. I can't repeat some of them, but for each other, because we'd make fun of each other, oh yeah, that joke sucked and this kind of stuff. But we did it, but it was kind of like a jab, but also it was kind of constructive criticism. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because you wanted to see him succeed. You know what I mean? And yet I was the kind of person that I would be doing open stage, and when you were doing the open stage, it was 10 comics, and you'd be emceeing, and then some dude would just come out of nowhere for the first time, bring up such and such. That person would just crush and just crush. And the other comics would be up there going, oh, he sucks. He's a Dennis Miller ripoff or this kind of stuff. I'm like, no, he's funny.
Yeah.
That dude is funny. You know, and you have to have that. Certain people have to have that awareness and knowing that, you know, where your place is. Like some people are just funny.
Yeah.
And, but you know, you kind of see that with different, you know, comics. There's some basically you think they're, and I know a lot of guys that I don't hang out with just because they thought they were funnier than anybody else. And I remember one time at the Funny Bone in Pittsburgh, their main headliner, basically just, they got in a big fight, and it was on a Friday night, late Friday night, got in a big fight, and the club owners kicked the person out. You're done. You're out of here. They called me Saturday morning and said, are you free tonight? Can you come down? We need a headliner for tonight. 2 shows. Okay. And the middle act was Steve Byrne. I don't know if you Steve Byrne is.
No.
He's, I mean, huge comic. He's originally from Pittsburgh. And there was another comic, you know, which I won't name the name, but Steve Burns, he's nationally known and has, you know, a lot of TV credits. I'm thinking why didn't they just bump him up, and bump the middle guy up and just have me MC it or just eliminate the MC? So I remember, okay, so that's my job. That's what I had to do. And I remember the MC at the time come walking in and sees it's me, and immediately he's pissed.
Yeah.
First thing you got to say is like, what he goes, is that what you're wearing? Yeah, dude, this is what I wear. You know what I mean? This is what I wear on stage. I don't wear a suit. I don't dress up in, you know, something to make me give me an image of something I'm not. And so I just remember he was like pissed off at him. Like, hey, if I'm paid to do 10 minutes or they pay me to do 40 minutes, I do my time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I do it to the best of my ability. And sometimes it goes off great. Sometimes it's just, you know, but I'm critical of myself. Like I'll be critical and I'll say, that wasn't my best show. And like my agent will go, you kidding me? The club, the people sent pictures, people were doubling over. They had drinks coming out of their nose. I'm like, well, I just didn't feel like it was my best.
Yeah.
So that what you're saying about we're dying up here, it's, that's another thing that you kind of have to learn is you have to be able to adapt. And one of the shows, like, when you work for an agency, a lot of times people will call you. I've done everything from, I mean, I'll tell you, like, one of the first private shows I did was for the Westmoreland County Assistant Coroner. It was in a fire hall in New Ken. He was the best man, and he wanted to hire a comic. So I'm at this fire hall in New Kensington, upstairs in a fireman's club. And he said, yeah, man. He goes, you ready? I'm like, yeah. Guy goes downstairs, and he's like, you guys ready for your entertainment? And I could just tell by their applause and their screaming, they're thinking they're seeing titties. You know what I mean? And I come down that steps, Jordan, and right on me is for a flat screen. It's a big draw down the screen with a big porno going on. And there I am, and I see all these guys clapping and going. And I remember saying, wow, it got so quiet in here, you could hear my ass slam shut. And because that's what they're expecting. And I'm like, you know, so now I got this room full of angry guys. Haven't seen a naked woman in probably, 30 years, whatever it is.
Oh,
so I was, but I got through it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so at that point on, I always said to people when they want to do a private party, I always ask questions.
Oh, yeah.
Like say, my buddy's turning 30. Give me some info on him. Like, hey, tell me about Jordan. Like Jordan, so I knew what you were doing, so I could go up there and work with it. And I did a show. When you talk about adapting, agents a lot of times they just want to know, hey, I want a comic. How much you willing to spend? And they look through it and look at their budget, going, okay, well, if you want to spend this, we'll put this person here. But if you want to spend this, we can give you our Dollar General comics over here. You mean right. These are your Kohl's people over here, right? There you go. Yeah, these are your Dollar General comics. And I did a show at his place up in North Hills for a guy who wanted to celebrate his wife's 50th birthday. He saw my set. He saw my little thing on the agency, and he liked my style of comedy. So get the contract. I got to go up and I've got to do half hour. So I walk into the place and I tell the waitress, I said, hey, can you I'll just say George know that you need to talk to him. Don't say anything to him. I said, George, I need to talk to you and bring him outside. So he comes out, guy in his like late 50s. He's all happy and excited. He's like, oh man, I can't wait. And I'm like, so your wife's 50? Turns 50? He goes, yeah. He goes, in fact, she turns 50 and I turn 50 2 days from now. I said, that's cool. I said, it's cool. I said, so how long you been married? He goes, about 3 years. I go, your first marriage? He goes, no, it's our second. I'm like, like, so, because I'm trying to find out more about
Yeah.
him. So how'd you guys meet? Oh, we met through a Christian dating service. I'm like,
Oh, boy.
okay.
There
Okay.
it is.
Yeah. Yeah, there it is. And I go, okay. He goes, yeah, the theme is 50. She turns 50 and I turned 50. And there's 50 people here. Oh, they friends and family? No, they all go to our church. But, oh, shit. You know what I mean? So I'm going, wow. Okay. So I said, okay. So then I said, you know what? Just let me know when you want. I'll just go in the bar and I'll just wait for you to come on. So I went to the bar, and I don't drink before a show. I'll take a beer on stage with me.
Yeah.
Drink, because it's another way of making you feel comfortable, like
Sure.
you're sitting in someone's living room. I chugged a beer. And he came out and he said, "You ready?" And had I noticed one detail, I probably would have said, "We can't do the show." Because he introduces me. I walk in, and it's a small room, and no stage, nothing, just a podium with the braided mic on it.
Yeah.
And he was sitting right there at the table with his wife and his parents and her parents, and they both looked like they fought in the Civil War. They were so old. Sitting at the table next to him was all the grandkids, ages 5 to like 12.
Oh.
Whole table load of them, all in their little games. I'm like, ah. So there I was. I walked in. She was laughing, and but I got through it. Like I got through it. It was fun, what I mean. But it was just like the whole scene was not anything I should have ever walked into. And I remember getting off the phone, getting off stage, called my agent, I told them what's going on, and of course they laugh. They think it's funny, and I said, "It's not funny, dude. You need to find out what this is." You know what I mean? So now what I do is if I get information, I try to find out ahead of time what I'm getting into.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So, but it's technically, it's always like a learning experience.
Yeah.
Always. Yeah. So, but I hope I answered your question about that, but there is a click with people. Some people will, learn to adapt. Some people will just go right in and do their show. Yeah. And the minute their joke doesn't work, they freeze. And they don't do anything. They just basically plow right through it, and it's horrible. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I've known enough comics to know that they don't know how to adapt. And if it's like we're co-headlining together and we get paid the same, I got to do 40 minutes, he does 40, I generally try to go on first, just because I don't want to sit through that. Yeah. But it's just, but there are a lot of, it's an egotistical business. There's no doubt about it. You know what I mean? Yeah. But there's a percentage of people who they're in it for the fun. You know what I mean? And a buddy of mine, the last show I just did, right before all this happened, it was a fun show. The crowd was into it, and that's how I kind of ended. It was my first show of the year, my last show of the year.
Right.
I had one big show this year, and I lost a lot of gigs because of it. So
where do you see the future of comedy right now? I mean, podcasts. Do you think guys probably doing podcasts, long form, things like that?
It's weird because of two of my friends in LA were doing a happy hour sit down comedy. We're basically, and it was through a friend's sister. Their company basically got in and he sat in his house in LA and did a 45-minute to an hour comedy show on video screen for everybody to sit and watch, just like when you're watching like you're having the meetings right now.
Yeah,
how companies are run. It was weird. Made a few bucks here and there, but he did a couple of them. But I think the future of comedy is we got to get over this situation right now to allow it, because comedy, I say that in comedy is a room of intimacy. The best rooms are the rooms that hold like 50, 60 people right up front. Like, here's me, here's the table, boom. That's a comedy atmosphere right there. Right. Because right now, if they open a comedy club, it would be like summertime is horrible for comedy. No one wants to be inside, especially in this area where we have limited beautiful days. Right. Yeah. So the 7:00 show at a club, it's empty. So they but they know the 9:00 is going to be sold out or later. So they have a full staff. So they got 5 waitresses. So you get a room full of 300 people. So to give everybody, tips and time, table time, they got 5 people sitting over here, 12 over here, 2 up front here. You're all over the place. And the rule of thumb is, and no club owner does it, is, like when you go to a movie theater, and it's empty, you sit there, you find your seat, but when it's empty, it feels empty. Yeah. But if you put everybody in the front row and just fill the seats from their back. The last person in the last row, they see people.
Mm-hmm.
So this whole room could be a big void. And some clubs had a curtain you could pull back to make the room look even smaller. So then you could direct all your energy into the one spot.
Yeah.
So I brought up someone the other day. I said, if they did it, it's kind of like they're doing with baseball. Is they just fill the room up with mannequins. Just put bodies in there. Just put the table here and the table here. So, I mean, I don't know where it's going to go. I think people are going to want to be out there and want to, they want to laugh.
Yeah.
But the problem is with it right now, Jordan, is the fact that there's too much sensitivity with. Honestly, I call it the pussification of America.
Oh my God, yeah.
Because it's like we're too soft. Everybody's afraid of this and afraid of that, and everybody's dividing, and no one's channeling all their positive thoughts into one thing. They're just going this further and further away.
Yeah.
And that ability to enjoy yourself. I mean, I don't know you and your wife. You go out to dinner just because you want to get up. It just doesn't feel the same.
Oh, it doesn't.
Yeah. It feels like
it's a weird thing, man.
Yeah, I feel like I'm in the military and I was in combat, fighting for my life, and I got a little bit of shore leave for a little bit. I'm out, and I'm just kind of like looking over my shoulder, going, "What's going to happen next?"
Right.
And it's an uneasy feeling, and So as far as the future goes, I mean, I think it'll come back again, because there's always going to be comedy, because you've heard us saying comedy stems from tragedy.
Absolutely.
Yep. And so I think it'll happen, but it's going to have to be at the right time, right place. I mean, watching the playoff games at the hockey games and seeing it's just like a practice. I'm sure it's weird for them, but you watch it going, okay, it's just not the excitement. You know what I mean? It's not. So I don't know when that's going to change. I mean, none of us do.
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. But
yeah, it's definitely a weird thing. I mean, we've only been out to dinner or for drinks, like only while we were at dinner.
Yeah.
Twice since this whole thing started. You and I, we met in a bar.
Yeah.
And, that was great because it was just like a nice Saturday. We were there just like having some beers and talking and all of that. And then that's just gone.
Yeah. And the thing about it is the conversation just started about general conversation.
Yeah.
It led to this.
Mm-hmm.
Now I get frustrated because you can't even say the sky is blue and without someone going, well, it's Trump's fault, or it's so-and-so's fault, or it's Fauci's fault, or it's his fault. It's like, oh my God, I just came out to say hi.
Right,
I mean? And that's what's frustrating to me is that, like, stop it. Just go out and just have a conversation with somebody. You know what I mean? I was at All Saints a couple weeks ago, and there was a food truck there. And went up in the nicest guy in the world. You know what I mean? He was ethnic and running the pizza truck. Him and I were having this great conversation. He's, man, how you doing, brother? I said, I'm doing great. It was awesome, man. He said, he goes, what can I get you? I go, you have a 10-inch pizza. He goes, you're lucky, man. I got one left. We just talked, and it was good. And his daughter's working there, and he's like, as soon as we're done with this guy, gentlemen, we got to mop up the floor. We got to do this and that. And it was a cool, just like conversation I was having with a total stranger.
Yeah.
He was doing his thing. I was out, and I walked away going, that's what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's about, is just going out. And that's what I love about going out to places and doing my comedy is all the total strangers I've met and just bonded with, just out of a conversation. And now it's like, I mean, I just went the other day. Today's Thursday, Tuesday. I stopped on the way home at a place I go to a lot in Export, and it was busy. And I sat down, and they had the outside tables are filled, but the inside, they only had 3 tables in it. We had conversation. It was all about this. And I put it in a nutshell. I said, I don't know who's dying and who's lying about who's dying.
Right. Yeah.
So I said, but that's what all the conversation was. It was all going at, and like, this is bullshit and this is kind of stuff. Is the fact of the matter is, we're in a situation right now, and I think everybody's trying to find a positive in it.
Yeah.
And they don't know what the positive is. And it's weird because you go to a certain point and you go, okay, this doesn't make sense. Like, my nephews are practicing for football, for their school, practicing football. they have to designate what parent brings them and picks them up. They got to sit so many feet away from each other on the bench, and only so many people in the locker room, and they got to bring their own water. I'm like, how are you going to tackle?
Right, exactly.
It's a contact sport. I mean, I could understand maybe putting a plexiglass, like a screen in there, but, I mean, it makes absolutely no sense to me. Like, so why even do that?
Right, exactly.
I mean, that's, I told people, I go, it's like tell people it's like having an orgy, but you're not allowed to touch anybody.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like, hey, listen, we're all going to get naked, but please, no contact.
Absolutely.
And that's what I think that's what the difficulty is like, you get to one certain point. I just saw something today now that whatever is the doctor or whatever his name is said that now that maybe wearing goggles and face shields is better preventing. I'm like, no.
Saw that.
I go, well, I guess I'm going to go out right now and buy every motorcycle helmet I could find, because you may as well just put a motorcycle helmet on your face.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah. So, it's, I don't know what's going to happen. It's just like, all I got to do is just go, and like, I was looking forward to this. Just, you got to try to reinvent your life. And I think that's the struggle that most people are having right now is everybody's been put in a situation they were never expecting. And they try to find a way to reinvent their life by following the rules, and then they change the rules. You know what I mean? Like, a couple weeks ago before 4th of July, when they did the whole thing of saying no alcohol at restaurants because people with alcohol tend to linger longer. If they sat down and thought about it and said, just make it, you get 2 drinks and you're done.
Yeah.
2 drinks and you're done. Because when I go to dinner, I usually have a beer. I get a beer, look at the menu, boom, I'll get this. That beer is finished, have a beer to finish off my meal, and I'm done. Just say 2 drinks and you're out. That eliminates the people that linger. Right. But no, they just said, no, you can't do that. So then what happened was, and I told everybody, I said, I wish Vegas had a line of bets of predictability. Where like you knew exactly what was going to happen. You could call your bookie going, hey, I'm going to put 10 grand down on the fact that all the people from Allegheny County are coming to Westmoreland County to drink for 4th of July, that by Monday they're closing down Westmoreland County.
Right.
Boom. It's exactly what they did, because people came out here. I saw friends of mine on Facebook that live in Allegheny County going, oh, I found this sweet winery, and they just wanted to enjoy themselves. And then they took that away, they took this away, instead of just looking at it and going, how can we make this work? And then what happens is then people become angry.
Yep.
And then you're, like you said, then you have your friend who says something that's so stupid that you're angry about not being able to do something so simple, and you see that, and now you hate that person, and all it does is metastasize that whole thing instead of trying to find a way to curb it.
Right, yeah.
And you saw the thing when he said food, so people were just giving out bags of pretzels.
Yep.
And now they're saying, no, you can't have a beer unless food's in front of you. I mean, unless you go to a restaurant, you can order your drink and your food, but you have to have them together. The place I was at the other night, they brought their beer out, and they said, listen, and I had cheese balls. Yeah. And these 2 guys are sitting there, and the waitress said, so we're not supposed to give you the beer, but you ordered food. We'll just tell you we'll make an excuse. I had like toothpicks, and I said, here's some cheese ball lollipops. I'll give you one of these. But yeah, it's just like they keep doing it. And I think that's what people are so frustrated with, is not being able to know what they're allowed to do and not allowed to do. Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah. And I feel bad for the small business people.
Absolutely.
I mean, fortunately for me, my comedy's not the only thing I do. I have other things to do, but my other friends are just, my friends in LA are basically, they got, that did get some sort of money. They're going to be running out. They don't know what they're going to do. Yeah. You know what I mean? And, and the other downside of it is, if you had a podcast or you had something where you wanted to pay per view to make money, well, most people that want to pay for that don't have money because they're not working. Yeah. So, hate to sound like a downer. We're supposed to be talking about comedy, but it's just it's just one of those things where you gotta have to try to find a way to make it so it works for everybody. And I don't know who's gonna do that. You know what I mean? And so I'm not a political person. I don't do saying comedy. I don't do any political humor at all. I stay away from it. Yeah. I don't want to talk about it. Yep. My view is, I don't care who's running the country. I just want them to run a country. I don't care if Democrat or Republican. I just want to basically feel like I can do what I got to do and come home and feel like I'm doing the right thing. And but it's not. If we ever going to get there, I don't know.
Who fucking knows?
Yeah. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Shit, man. All right.
So anything else? Any questions?
Dude, if you drop your plugs here if you.
No, my plug. I mean, what am I going to plug? I'll be sitting in my living room for the next 2 months.
Right. Yeah.
No, there's, honestly, I don't have any, I had
Facebook, Instagram, any of that?
No, it's, I post Facebook just for, I do a lot of outdoor stuff, adventures. I'm not a person, I boast what I do. I use Facebook to promote my shows. Like if I'm doing a show, I'll get the promo thing made up, copy and paste that, put it out there. I mean, most of the shows I do out here usually always sell out.
Yeah.
I mean, for years. I was doing shows, a lot of local places, Valentine's Day shows, sell out 260 people. I have a great following, but the problem is that there's nothing in the books. Like everything's been taken away. I had a couple wineries that were booked solid.
Yeah.
And I see they're doing music, but I'm not going to do the comedy because music is just not, music's different.
Yeah.
Music you can do outside. That's one thing about comedy. You can't do comedy outside. You can't. Comedy, like I said, it's just weird. You have to be in a room focused, you know what I mean? And, so you can't be doing a show at the, on a golf course at the, the approach of the airport with jets flying over you. It's a distraction. So comedy is just, I'm just going to sit back and just wait it out and see. If someone says, hey, you want to do a show? I'll do my show and I have fun. I've done a show for 2 people. I've done a show for 2,000 people. You know what I mean? I'll do the same show for that same group of people. But when that's going to happen, I don't know. I wish I had something I could plug and say, hey, this is where I'm going to be at. But right now it's just going to be me in my living room.
There you go.
Yeah. But I'd like to, if you want to do another one of these, I'd love to do it again.
Yeah, absolutely.
So for sure. Maybe on a little bit more of a lighthearted note.
Yeah.
We went back and forth. I think I got more on the serious side, but
it's good. I mean, like, that's the whole thing with this podcast. I mean, like, why I enjoy it so much is just like, I get to talk to people that, you hear that you're a comedian. You just assume that, man, this guy's just life of the party all the time, always at 100% banging it out.
Yeah.
And you get to talk to you and just like understand that, like, yes, you're a normal guy and you are living the same life as everybody else and running into the same struggles and all that stuff.
It's weird for me because one of the weird things for me was doing comedy is like you had a black and white headshot and people would take it off the door and they want you to sign it. I'm like, I've literally signed girls' breasts with a marker and it's just weird. Like, to Sally, hey, great time. That's weird for me.
Right. Yeah.
That's just weird for me because it's not why I did it.
Yeah.
But you realize that it's crazy when you do shows, and a lot of times you do shows in the middle of nowhere, and you're the closest thing these people are ever going to get to live entertainment. They don't go to Atlantic City, they don't go to Vegas or to Pittsburgh. This is it. So you're it. And I remember doing a lot of shows with a good friend of mine, up towards Interstate 80 and all those small little lumber towns, and you do a show at like a country club, 200-300 people, and they invite you to a local bar, and you walk in that bar, and you swear to God, like you just stepped off a tour bus. Yeah, I mean it's great, and it's great, it's fun, and I've had a ton of fun doing it, but deep down I'm a normal person, and I don't like, and it's weird for me that all the years I was an engineer, I go to place, say, this is my friend Shaun, and this is Mike, and blah blah blah. But once I started doing comedy, I get together with everybody else. They go, hey, this is Michelle, this is, Susan, and this is Mike, and this is Shaun. Shaun's a comedian. They labeled me.
Oh, yeah.
And I would be like, don't, because then it's next. Oh, say something funny. I'm like,
be funny.
I'm like, well, you're my accountant. You're an accountant. Do my taxes for me. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So that was weird, and I didn't like it because I wanted people to know. And I have people who know me, and I've met some newer girls over the last couple of years, never see me perform. And they go, you're not that funny. I'm like, well, if you saw me here and you saw me on stage, I'm 2 totally different people. Yeah. Two totally, I have an energy level. I'm 2 totally different people. And I said, you have to experience it. And it's just transforming that energy into, to a different level.
To what you do.
Yeah. So, but.
Awesome, man. Well, I'd love to have you back.
Yeah.
If you're willing to do that.
Yeah.
You could try and put something together, man. I think it would be a good time.
Yeah, we could do like maybe a post-COVID show.
I think that would be awesome.
Or after the election, like someone posted on Facebook, said what are your plans after the pandemic ends November 4th? I said, I'm going to take off my mask, have unprotected sex under a statue.
There you go.
Yeah.
And with that, sir, thank you for being on the show.
You bet. Yeah. Thanks.